I'm back because remember.
I was in your number.
Okay, yeah, I can. I'll send it. I'll send it to you.
Okay, okay. I'm gonna say goodnight to them.
Okay.
I'm gonna say goodnight.
Okay. Good night, baby. I will see you soon. Thank you for being a guest. Very, very cool. Very cool. I know. Yeah.
Would be my my headliner on mine.
That's cool. Cool.
Yeah.
Okay, because.
Women talk.
Mm-hmm.
You're
sure
comfortable
will.
with sex and stuff, right?
Am I comfortable with sex?
I mean, like, sex talk. Shoot, I'm sitting here having you there on the
Back in the 90s, yeah.
I knew.
Because everything was.
I need to go find my birth
like.
certificate.
Yeah.
I'm trying to figure out how the hell old I am.
Yeah. Yeah.
I did not know.
Brenda! Oh my God. It's Miss Crawford. Miss Crawford. Okay. So we were. Do you want to get back to talk? Okay. We were talking about the elections in Nigeria, and we got through the DR Congo and Catalonia, Nigeria. Okay, so in Zimbabwe, says the soldiers have been accused of beatings during recent protests are imposters, and the government has promised to investigate cases of child abuse. And security forces have been cracking down on violent demonstrations that began last week after the price of fuel more than doubled. Hundreds have been arrested. Among them are children who claim they have been beaten with sticks and chains. There is a possibility that the children have been used as human shields. Okay, so one of the themes we've been talking about is that with a lot of stuff, there aren't bad guys and good guys all the time, unfortunately, and that was the kind of the point of the film we were talking about earlier about the Rwandans. And I didn't want to talk about this in case Shantae watched the film, but the character finds out she's a Rwandan orphan that is raised in England, and she thinks that she's a Tutsi, but it turns out that she's a Hutu. And it's an example of just how damaging and wrong hurtful it is for kids or for anybody not to know the truth about themselves. And like at my Bible study 2 weeks ago, we were talking about kind of the people that we look up to and trust, and one of the women said that she felt that way about her aunt because that her aunt was the one who told her that she was part black. The family had been passing, and she didn't even know. And here was this part of herself that she didn't even know about. So, okay, we need to be honest, honest. And okay, so one of the things that we were following here with a lot of amusement was the Dutch historian that spoke at the Davos summit about taxes. Okay, and the Davos summit is just one of these classic things of like sort of like good-hearted, good-intentioned liberals. I don't know. So this guy came to speak at Davos and said, okay, he pointed out, like, why are y'all, like, talking about saving the environment and you're all here on private planes, and also that these are people who were talking about philanthropy and they don't pay taxes, and really it's more fair for them to be paying taxes than donating donating money. I mean, people now billionaires now have a lot of political. I mean, not that like billionaires don't always have power, but they set political agendas, and they make choices about about the environment and about healthcare. So this clip was circulated all over the place, and the historian was talking about, he was talking about back in the 50s when supposedly people paid like 70, 80, 90% taxes. And I don't know, Roselle, how would you feel? That doesn't make sense to me. Okay, because to me it's like, if I had to pay 90% of my money in taxes, I was like, why bother?
Right.
That's how I would feel.
So wait, what do you get for 90% of your taxes? What are you getting for paying 90% of your taxes?
You keep 10% of your money. Okay, well,
I mean, is there something else? Is it like, are we getting free health care? Are we getting...
Well, the point of taxes are, it's to pay for upkeep for the schools. It is to pay for, the streets and all of that.
You said 90%. Now, I'm saying if they were...
This was back in the 50s.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Because I'm saying, if you're going to take 90% of a check, I'm like wondering what are you getting for 90%? 90% is like literally all your check. So you definitely can't pay for health care.
Who would want to go to work if they had to give up 90% of their money? Yeah.
Are we getting free health care? Are we getting like...
Yeah.
Is literally like food going to drastically... Like I can go and buy a thing of milk that's $3 I could buy for like a penny?
Yeah. No, it wouldn't. It would not work that way.
It would have to happen like that. Like you would have to make stuff so... prices would have to go down, stuff. But I mean, it just wouldn't work.
You have to present it to people differently, because that's one of the things that's been talked about, with some of our presidential candidates.
Like Europe.
Yeah.
You know how they tax more over there.
Yeah.
But they got like free health. They got a lot of different extra things.
Yeah.
That, like, I know a lot of people say that they're like, oh, well, at least over here we don't get taxed as much as they do in Europe. But they can all go to doctors, dentists.
Yeah.
They get so much help that, if I'm paying extra to get that help, I wouldn't mind. But if I'm paying 90% and it's the same way as now, and I'm still trying to pay $3 or $4 for a...
Well, the idea, it wouldn't, like, you wouldn't be, I mean, the idea would be, like, really, really wealthy people, but them
But
too,
even them,
exactly,
90%?
No, yeah, I mean...
That's still, 90% is,
like, my brother's extremely wealthy, and he works very, very hard. If you take 90% of his money, he's just going to be like, why bother?
You make what? You only get to keep 10 of it?
That's ridiculous.
So that's like, that's just, like I said, you literally,
some people like AOC, people say that rich people should pay 70%. Like, a lot of people think rich people should pay 70% of their income in taxes. I still think that's a lot.
Yeah, to me that's kind of a lot. I agree.
I don't think you should need to pay more than half of what you make in taxes, actually.
I still think that they get more perks that we don't know about.
Well, of course they do, but...
So that's the only reason why I agree with it. I mean, if we were getting the same stuff, like I said, if we were getting free health care, if we were getting the stuff that would help, then I can understand them taking more money because it justifies it. But, if you're going to take more money and we're not seeing extras out of it...
Yeah.
To me, it's like it's not.
And you need to try and get across that, that there are costs to society that we all bear, whether it's us or not. Like, say, okay, like the classic thing is, okay, rich people in San Francisco don't like to walk down the street and see homeless encampments. So it's like, okay, if you could get across, like, okay, if you could point out, like, okay, if your taxes are going for secure housing for people, then you don't need to, then you don't need to be walking down the street getting panhandled all the time. And So you need to try and get across that there are benefits to society, that things benefit you whether they do or not. And like the idea, like that's the reason, that's the justification to pay for schools, why we should all be taxed for schools, you know, and like why, like I always vote for school levies, that, okay, we're contributing, it serves all of us, we are all better off with an educated population. So that's why we should be paying for the schools. And with healthcare, I mean, you know, get across the thing about making, you know, having a system that everybody buys into is that the problem with healthcare, you know, if you with private insurance is, you know, young people don't want it and older people do. So, you know, you're supposed to be having, so nobody's paying into, people, not enough people are paying into it, and, you know, people that get sick a lot are getting paid out a lot of the time. So if you have a system that everybody is paying for through their taxes, then it balances out. And you need to try and get across that, you know, try and make connections. There was a thing on, you know, how to get across that, you know, that in our society we are connected, and to try and, you know, like why people can feel like, okay, if rich people are sending their kids to private school, then why should people don't necessarily want to pay taxes. So, you know, like, hey, you want to try and be okay, like, we want an educated population, we want an educated workforce. It benefits all of us if people are to have our young people learn to be productive citizens and not be a drain on society. And, you know, not, you know, your taxes are also going for prisons, and, you know, if you can try and like direct more to schools, then hopefully you'll have, you know, the idea is to have fewer people in prison. So that's the hope anyway. So anyway, we were kind of cracking up because the historian went on Tucker Carlson, and a conservative commenter, and kind of, he didn't really tell him off. He was just saying, you know, he just told Tucker that, you know, hey, you're kind of late to this, and Tucker cussed him out. It was pretty funny. And then the guy, so it didn't run on Fox News, but then the guy just released it on his own, and, you know, and I like the guy because, you know, Tucker was accusing him of not watching Fox News, and he said, he said, yeah, he did. He said, you know, he was going on a show. Of course he watched his show. And I'm like, thank you. I mean, we need to be informed. I am a big fan of information. So, okay. So, Rizal, did you want to weigh in on Jussie Smollett?
My feelings on Jussie Smollett?
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't like what he did.
Yeah.
He did something stupid. That wasn't the smartest thing in the world to do. But, you know, people do dumb stuff left and right every day. So, I mean, I'm not shocked anymore at what people do. But,
yeah,
you know, I just think his whole story was bad. I didn't think he did a good job as a criminal. He should stick with acting.
Yeah. Unfortunately, though, well, he was just written off of his show. He was just written off of the last 2 episodes. So he's done. He's gonna do time. So, I mean, it's very sad to see somebody that seemed to have a really, really bright future and be a real shining star. I mean, it's really hard. It's really hard for people to see people be self-destructive in that way. And I mean, I'm sure he has mental health issues because his behavior was just really, really irrational. So, okay. And speaking of the legal system, we want to send our thoughts to the family and friends of Willie McCoy, who was a young rapper here in Vallejo, who was shot dead in his car 2 weeks ago, and so by the police. And one of the police officers shot somebody else dead. I mean, he's like apparently, like, people, like, get fired from the Oakland police force and then come to Vallejo because one of the cops also shot somebody dead in Oakland. And, okay, and I want to talk about the work that my nephew does, because my show is my place to talk about things when I and not get screamed at. My nephew is a psychologist, and he works with cops on mindfulness. And my belief is, okay, like, a lot of alcoholism is a very big problem with police officers, and a lot of them have PTSD. A lot of them are ex-military and have untreated PTSD. And just, again, we talk about mental health. You know, mental health is the reason why so many people are, you know, school shootings and all that. I think it affects our entire society, and police officers have a culture where they can't talk about their problems. And okay, because we can talk about punishing them, we can talk about, you know, bias training, but the best way to get people to stop doing things is to get them to not want to do them. Try and, like, get them to not react however they react. And if I bring up mindfulness training for cops, people are going to start screaming like, "Oh my God, blah blah blah! You're letting them off the hook." I'm like, no, I absolutely am not letting them off the hook. I am looking at how you can get these things not to happen. And, you know, you look at everything, you can, like, okay, go back to childhood. Okay, if you can have consequence, you know, you try and, like, teach your kids not to deal with their emotions and to behave and not have tantrums, and you try and, like, you know, set consequences and stuff when they have tantrums. But ultimately you want to have a peaceful environment, and you want your kid to have groundedness and skills, emotional skills, and life skills, so that they don't feel like having tantrums. So I really think that, I mean, people don't do things because of suing the police force is not going to make a difference. That doesn't make people. Suing the police force will not get police officers to stop shooting people. And, you know, yeah, bias training, you know, yeah, I think so. I mean, you know, looking at assumptions, like, okay, why do you think this guy? I mean, I talked to a relative of a relative one time who was a cop, and see, this time I didn't even understand it. I was like, well, can't you guys, like, wound somebody? Why do you always, like, kill them? And he said that, to me, my job is to go home alive. And so you have a lot of cops going around thinking that they themselves are going to be shot dead, and that's why they react as they do, because they think that they're going to be shot. And so rather than getting into the right or wrong of that, I think it would be most effective to try and deal with the belief and the emotions and anxiety and all of that makes cops think that they're going to get shot. And and they do. So, that is my theory about stuff. And, I really feel that, that things that the sort of stuff my nephew is doing, that is what makes that is what makes the most difference. And like, okay, so like look at domestic violence. Okay, you try and like teach anger management skills. You try and do that for like domestic abusers. That's one of the things you try and teach them ways to manage their anger, and cognitive behavioral stuff, like, okay, look at how you're thinking about a situation, and learn different ways to think that are not self-destructive and violent. But ultimately, you would like to have them not want to hit people. And that is what I would like to get to with everyone. And it is not coddling in the least bit. It is not coddling. It is not excusing. It is going directly to the source of the problem. And, you want to try and get, instead of dealing with a problem, it would be great not to have the problem. So that is my hopes, what I hope. But again, we're sending our thoughts to Willie McCoy and to everybody who has been hurt by that. So that's what's going on in our beautiful city of Vallejo, California. I was at the food pantry, Faith Food Friday today, and State Senator Bill Dodd came by the food pantry, and he stayed for an hour. Yeah, it was really nice. A lot of the time politicians just like breeze through and like get a photo op and stuff like that. But yeah, he really stuck around. It's really nice. So, okay. We have had like kind of a strange schedule. We're going to be back in 6 days. We're going to be back this coming Thursday.
Yes.
Which is really exciting. By then, Nigeria will have hopefully had their election. So we'll be keeping everybody posted on that. Oh, and so incidentally, then the young lady from Alabama, who wants to come back here with her little ISIS baby. Her father is suing the government. I'm like, bring her home, man. It's like, it's just shameful. Show ISIS. That's
crazy.
It's crazy. Yeah.
That's crazy.
Yeah. Okay. Like a young woman is disturbed enough to run away to some place where she's going to be treated like an animal, and like, yes, bring her back.
Right. But they got to prove a point with that.
They do, and they should be proving the point that I'm talking about. But
right. But that's why they're showing it. They're trying to.
Yeah.
Because of all the whole little illegal alien and all that kind of weird
exactly.
stuff. They're trying to.
Exactly.
They've been doing a lot of Fox News lately. I know.
Yeah.
They've been showing a lot of I think there was some Mexican guy. What did he do? He shot at the cops. Did something against the cops.
Yeah.
He got deported. Like they said, he got deported 3 times.
Yeah.
And on Fox, they're always showing people who are illegally here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
that's all they show. And there's I heard there's a lot of other stuff that's been going on.
There is.
See,
I was trying to point. I was trying to point that out to a young person I know, because I was like, okay, look. Fox reports on Fox shows people climbing over the fence. MSNBC shows people like crying. Both of those things happen. Okay, you need to understand that journalists make choices. So, yeah, that's the biggest. I was trying to explain to this young person. She's like, I try and watch things without a bias. I was like, no, everybody has a bias. You need to watch all these different things. So
it's hard. It's kind of hard to know everything unless you've actually been there to see it. So it's
It is.
like,
That's why you have to just, it's like, especially, I mean, that's why don't even necessarily like listen to people. Watch the footage, okay? They aren't actors, okay? Like, watch footage from different things that are happening at the border.
That's why I watch both news stations.
Exactly.
So you see